Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Okay, that looks all right. Chat test. That looks all right. Okay, let's go. Yay! So we're just going to continue where we left off. In the last stream. So I have 2 tasks that I will still want to do today, and that would be nice if you can. And that is this task. Memorize if fault outs have been opened. That's easy to explain once the project is open. It's a really easy task, but it has been bothering me a little bit. This task, I don't know if I even want to do that, because that is add a serialized field to mapping and tools that defines with which brush it will work with. This is a little bit bothering. I'll explain. Just explain immediately. What is this task? So, if you have a brush, it probably will not work with every mapping algorithm. For the prefab brush, for example, you can place objects in the air. Yeah, that's cool, but here's the thing: you don't always want to do this. Why? if you have a texture brush, you texture a plane, a mesh, and you would edit the texture map on that, yeah? And drawing into thin air, I think it's possible, but might not be possible. I don't know if that's possible. What is not possible, for example, for a sculpting brush to edit thin air? That doesn't make sense. A sculpting brush needs to find where it hits a mesh and edit that mesh. Having a sculpting brush work in thin air, what is it supposed to do? And even if there's a mesh, why would it then detect thin air? Like have a target to plane. It doesn't make sense for every kind of brush. So I definitely need to have some kind of this algorithm works with this and that brush. I already have that for the tools, that the tools specify inside their code that they will cast the brush as a prefab brush. It has been jumping a little bit. Yeah. They will only work with a prefab brush. It wouldn't make sense for a prefab rotate left and right tool to also work for textures, because the algorithms are just different. Yeah. Of course, you could make a rotate and left tool try to fit that into everything. You can rotate a texture. Yeah, that would be nice. 90 degrees. You would but then you come to a sculpting brush. It doesn't make sense anymore. Yeah, so that wouldn't work with the sculpting brush. Yeah, so we have different cases where we can fit this thing in, and you either. Oh, sorry. So you either have a rotate left and right tool and say this is specifically for prefabs, and that's the way I want to go, because that makes it easier. Or you would still have to make a cast here and see, can the selected brush be cast as this type or this type, and then depending on the type, you rotate something left and right. For a texture, you would rotate the texture. For an object brush, you would go into their transforms and edit the transform information there. Ew. Something's wrong. I got white particles in the chocolate milk. I think that's the milk type though. Yeah, I think the air that's coming out of there. Okay, but this is chocolate. I was just wondering. I was looking inside the glass and saw white particles and was like, that looks like maybe that is whatever stuff. But okay. Yeah. I don't know if I can do that today. Today I want to do another task, and that is to work on the attributes of prefab brushes. Prefab brushes have this attribute here, over here, and it has the attribute has three properties: name and hide default instances, hide asset instances. Yeah. So hide asset instances would hide brushes that are made with create brush, prefab brush, and then you would create a new brush. Yeah, just like this. And you can see that over here. And if you define hide, you wouldn't be able to find it here. And then hide default instances, that would hide the class. Yeah. And hide asset and the name, that is the name that should be displayed in the drop down menu. It doesn't do that right now. So these three things should be fixed. With the fold out, memorize the fold out have been opened. You open this fold out, do anything, come back to the brush, and the fold out is closed. Yeah. Every time I do something, the fold out closes again, and I think that should be done by the user. Like this field actually memorizes if I open or close it. Globally, which is okay. It's not great. It's okay. I also think I can add a fold out here. That's a quality of life change though. But yeah, let's do that. Okay, I'll be off to the bathroom and BRB. Okay. Yeah, I will just sit down, disable the microphone, and keep working until I get something done. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. It's a little bit. What is happening? It looks a little bit retarded, to be honest. Like, I don't do anything in the code here, so I'm just listening to is the value of the transform follow changed. The value is actually the thing that determines if it is opened, closed. So normally you would say, okay, the value here changes, that triggers this event, and it does. See, the event is triggered. That actually is kind of the right thing to do. However, when it constructs the whole inspector, it has this update scheduler method. It's not a GUI event, it's just an update catch menu. It's just updating the menu and changes the value for some reason. And it's like, yeah, I set it to true, then I set it to false, then I set it to true, false, true. Why? Like, why? And it's and I'm like, looks hard coded. Looks like they hard coded something in there. Now, I don't mind if they use their own method. I have no idea what they are doing with that one. We cannot track it because this one is internal. So maybe there's a good reason to do that. Yeah. But we don't know. We can't get the type really. We don't have anything. It always says it's a change event. So we can't really get where it is coming from. I could try to get the previous value and see if there's something interesting in that. Let's just see, because the type is always a change event, but it's kind of meh. So false, true.
BEST Viwares on stream.com remove the space NS0YQVFO.
False, true. So it was false. It was not opened and sets itself to true. Okay, then you can see that the value here has been true. What? That doesn't even make sense. Let me check that again. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's not the amount of brushes, I think. Let's make a test here and delete this brush sample. Clear the console and select a brush. It's still 6 times, so it's not, doesn't have anything to do with every brush calling this. It would be odd and annoying, at least that's not the case. Unfortunately though, that doesn't help too much. Yeah. And we can see it has this weird pattern where things don't make too much sense. So the static value algorithm that I introduce here actually just takes this new event value. True, false, true, true, false. Yeah, and then you have the unity algorithm, and you can see false, true, false. But this is supposed to be the previous value. So Unity calls this method and forgets the value without notifying. And that's another thing, I don't notify the folder to do anything here. So you could, I thought first, okay, maybe it's something like, okay, every time we change this variable, it will retrigger the register value changed callback, but it doesn't. It's not the case actually, because they are not binded. It's not a bind value. We could try that though. Yeah, we can try to bind the transform folder value to the transform folder out so that they should be the same. But since it gets changed over here, it could be possible that it's not working. I try. And there's a lot of odd things going on, like here. And the previous value, the new value is 2. And then it says the previous value is false. But it did set itself to true. So it did forget this. I don't know. This sounds really hard-coded to me. Like, maybe, just maybe, when you close it. Okay, no, that's not it. I thought maybe every time you close it, it's going to trigger this event in the destruct function. That's not the case. That's odd. It's really odd. Yeah. I can see from the let's not collapse. Sets itself to true, but then it's still false. When it sets itself to true again, it's still false. When it's false, false, true, 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 but it's false. Sets itself to true, false, but it is still true. It is okay. Let's stop analyzing this. It's not working. And there's clearly some kind of weird oddness, odd bug inside of here. Yeah, just something that I wanted to point out. Yay. Sometimes Unity amazes me with how good and bad they are at the same time. Okay, so I thought maybe I can just make a workaround with the public getter and setter, and then I remembered, oh yeah, with a public getter and setter, we can't bind the value anymore because it just won't work. Yeah, just not supported, at least currently. And then I look, hey, I have a getter and setter in one case, and I knew I had to vary around it. And then it is with writing specifically what to do when the value changed. And since this is this is the problem that we have, that this doesn't work, and the solution says we can't pick a solution that takes us back to that point where we have the register value changed callback. So it's deadlocked. So something so simple as remembering if this is open or closed, I can still do it. When I save the value in something that is like palette, I can save that in the palette window, but it doesn't belong there. And I don't really want to make a public class just for that case. Which, no. So I have more as I get to more workarounds, because static values are also not supported, so they don't work. You need, so I want to, what I want is static value inside the inspector class, because this is where we actually specify what is shown, what not. Want to have a static value over here. And when you change the brush, I want it to be still open or closed, yeah? And that doesn't work. Currently, you see, sometimes it opens up, sometimes it closes. I don't even get the pattern why it sometimes opens the folder, sometimes not. There's no code that does that, yeah? Not for me. I think it is something by the scheduler. So it does randomly open and close the folder. Let's maybe do it like this. And now it will always be closed. I can't bind the value to anything. I can bind the value. But if I bind it to the brush, you pick another brush and this transform is closed again. This is the point where my opinion of the Unity UI toolkit fluctuates a little bit between it's great to terrible, yeah. So I think it would be okay if I could define static value in the brush. That would be okay for me. It wouldn't be the nicest solution, but even that is just not working. If I define a value that is not static, then I will memorize if the thing is open or closed, but only for that brush, which defeats the purpose when you change the brush. Yeah, and it will not remember the thing if it's opened or not. So I think that's annoying. If you want to go in here and edit the transform, you maybe go in here and you want to have something very specific, change the rotation. You always want want the thing to have a specific rotation, rotated right, yeah? You go in there, every time you have to open the transform options again. Yeah? Do this one time, perfectly fine. Do this 20 times, and you hate this system, yeah? Yeah, I'm left with only just brute forcing and trying things out until I find a solution. That's pretty much it. Okay, we got it working, but I don't know why. Yeah, so I have noticed that the target, the target doesn't. What is this? I mean, the target here. It says the target is a toggle, and then it's a foldout. What kind of toggle is that? Like, what? So we have a value changed callback, and when the value of the foldout changes, it's triggered. Yeah, this is false. Foldout go in. This is to show what's inside the foldout. If I open the brush, it will update the inspector and says, and it says, hey, there's this toggle. There's this toggle. It seems to initialize a toggle. And it changes the value of this toggle. It's like, okay, so maybe it doesn't know what it is. Maybe the foldout is initially just a toggle. With a value that is true or false. And then it builds itself up and triggers the value changed callback because it changes the value. So this is pretty much some kind of coding issue. Yeah. I don't mind that they start with a toggle and make it a foldout in the end. I'm just doing a wild guess here, so maybe I'm completely wrong, but it looks like they cast it from a toggle at the foldout when they constructed is maybe starting as a toggle and then is a foldout. But there's also something against it, and that is you see the values here. That they get updated, that they get changed, and that's why I thought, okay, maybe the value changes. But you see the result of this toggle doesn't match the foldout. The values here, they're completely different. And you could maybe prove that they are related somehow. I don't see though how they are and how that works. Yeah, I could make some kind of test here and try to prove that this maybe is because first a toggle and then makes this toggle into a foldout, because maybe they thought like, hey, a toggle is a boolean, has a boolean value, and then we inherit from a toggle and cast it into a foldout and do some coding in over there. I think it's weird what's happening, or this is some different toggle. Then these are toggles inside. I have 3 toggles. Oh, sorry, I have 3 toggles inside. And maybe these 3 toggles. Weirdly enough, it still debug logged the message here. It won't now. I don't know. No, I'm just doing wild guesses. Now I could also remove the toggles inside of here and see what happens. But the issue is fixed. a fix is okay. We have an if we have one if clause. This if clause that I don't like, because this I don't really understand why we need to check the target, why it's triggered on toggles. So this is a workaround or not a fix. You would have to fix the Unity code there so that it doesn't throw some random toggle values at the fallout. Maybe that's why we had this that true false values inside the toggles. So maybe the toggles inside this fallout trigger the fallout, which would mean that if we add a fallout to the fallout, it would trigger and say, hey, maybe the target is a fallout. But that's not the issue, because here we do this check: is this value change on the fallout, on exactly this fallout? So that wouldn't be an issue. I don't know. I thought the register value change callback is only registered if the fallout changes, but it seems like if anything inside the fallout changes, it is triggered. Maybe. Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's it. Let's do one more test. I think I can prove a point. Yeah, it's the toggles inside. Yeah, okay. But I would have seen that. Yeah. Okay, I think the odd thing is that there's a value that is named value. That is the value of the fallout, and if you have a method that is named register value changed, that you would actually think that the value named value changed, and not that the value that is the value of everything inside of the fallout changed. I think they should maybe make some kind of naming improvement on that. The naming on that is kind of odd. Misleading. Yeah, this is misleading. Let's maybe look at... Can we look at the documentation? Where it says when the values change. Yeah, so with the documentation you cannot really understand that. Yeah. So I think this is another example of where the documentation and everything else kind of fails to give you what you need here. Yeah. Would have saved me a lot of time if they made that clear, or at least it should be in the documentation. So now afterwards, when I go inside, I should go inside of here and say, oh, I haven't read the documentation. Of course, it's standing over there, and here's in the description it says when the value is changed of itself or anything inside the container. But it's only saying when the value is changed, and if you have a value named value, I don't know. They can still say in their defense, yeah, a value can be in anything. Yeah, then you can write that down in the documentation now. Yeah, at least there it should be, so that I could feel dumb in the end. Now I'm just feeling a little bit wasted. But I shouldn't feel like that. Yeah, it's just things are not perfect in the world, and it's not my job to fix everything. I just have to work with it. And feeling sad about such things, it is going to come with some problems too. Sorry. Another thing that I don't like is that the brush options, they because every time I recompile, I don't like that. Also, this value, every time I recompile, value is forgotten. I don't like that too. So we pretty much have to write it in the editor preferential if you want the value to stop disappearing. Great. But we can just do this with some getter and setter. Yeah. So let's do that. I'm going to copy these methods. These booleans. I just see that it will be kind of annoying when you're programming a brush, and every time you go in here and have to open and close the brush options again and again, it's going to be annoying. Yeah, I think it's annoying. It's, even working on the asset, this is going to be annoying. So I have to make the make a getter and setter for this. I will just start with the brush. And get. Like that I wanted to say something, and no, it stopped. What? Some always mess up with this syntax when I write a getter and setter. I really have problems learning that. Seems so easy, but get that bracket. Get. Why does it not work? Like this, okay. That get editor spot that set rule name of I actually don't need to. I think name of. Oh no, I need to get out and better because of this. Key. Now, it's a little bit redundant to set this value where it is used. Well, it's used a lot. It's only used there. Okay, let's see if the folder now remains opened if I recompile, or if it will stay closed. Yeah, it remains open. I'll go in here, see if it remains closed. It's closed again. Now it's open. Now it's closed. Now let's look at the transform options fold out. That is not memorized. I want that to be memorized though. What about the random option fold out? That is actually memorized by itself on default. But for this fold out, I will have to write some kind of getter and setup. So I want to try. What if I don't save this value? Yeah, now that's a little bit weird. I'm not sure. Maybe this will loop. I'm not sure. Maybe it will loop. It doesn't loop. Okay. I thought it would maybe loop because in the get function it has this name of OpenBosh foldout. Thankfully, this won't trigger the get function again. If it would go in here, say, okay, editor pref name of this, get this, and here go inside the get function again. Oh, name of get this, get inside the get infinite function again in an infinite loop. Yeah, that's what I thought it would maybe do, but this is quite nice what it's actually doing. So instead of saving it into a static bool over here, we're saving it into the editor preferences and using the editor preferences as our saving space. And we don't have to do anything else. So that's quite nice. So we can do this 3 times, and now we will have to do this for the mapping foldout. And also the tool foldout. Open. Okay. So what we can then use these as values over here. So I'm a little bit irritated because it opened the mapping. That should be closed because the default value should be false for these. It's true actually. At default, yeah, let's change that to false. Now that's weird. You might think like you go in here and the it's closed. Everything is closed at default, and you might think like, hey, why is everything closed here? So somebody goes in and I think for the brush options, a little bit nicer to open these. And there's a warning because these are not just dummy functions. That's why I get a warning. That's actually okay, because the dummy functions are not supposed to do anything. What I need to test out now is I open all these options up. We compile. Are they still opened? Yes. I close all 3. We compile. I could also open and close the project just to be sure, but I think that's okay. That's all. I don't really care about opening and closing the project again. I think it will work, and that's not the bigger issue. If you open the project up and have to do this one time, if it's even bugged, it shouldn't be, because it's saving them permanently. The setting is saved permanently. Editor press, they are persistent. So even if you close the project, and let's just open one thing, close, open, and we should now see that the tool options are opened when we look at them. And they are opened, yeah. So whatever you do here, that's persistent. Why do I do this? Yeah, why do I have this? These options. First of all, once you set yourself up, you're usually not going to do anything inside of here. Yeah, you set the tool options for one time. Say, okay, I want to have this brush. Then you define the objects in the brush and maybe do some changes in the transform options. And then you just draw. Yeah, and then you never use that again for quite some time. So you can just close that up, and it makes everything a little bit nicer and cleaner if you don't have it open the whole time. The less things the user has to see at the first time. At the first time you just see this, you're not going to be overwhelmed. You're going to see, okay, this is easy. There's not a lot of options. I can handle this. Yeah. Then you go in and see, oh, I can change things here. Oh, I have options there. They change if I change the tool. If I don't have a tool, it's gone. That's interesting. And depending on what brush I pick, I have different options. And the tools change. Okay, that's not usual. It's definitely not usual. So I've not seen anybody do something like this. What I do here is just add a lot of clarity on what you actually do. Next thing is I want to save this fallout now, though. Yeah, the same thing that we do inside the palette, and after that I will still do a change with the spacing between these fields and the brush options. Yeah, I think that we need a spacing here to make sense, to show that there's some kind of logic going on here, that this is for the target lists, and then we can just make a space. So you'll see, okay, this belongs, these three fields are one group, and then you have the brush and the brush options, this is another group. You could also try to draw something around this, but let's not overdo it for now. Yeah, for now. I don't think that we need to make a custom drawing for bars, and because that would backfire if you don't do it right. Yeah, and doing that right is really hard, and don't get that much out of it, because the clarity that we have, we see what we need to do and it works. The clarity that we have is all right. It looks, I wouldn't say professional yet. That's something that I will think next time. That I will think about next time. Now we should be able to see that this fallout is still opened, and it is. Okay. It says we can shorten up the thing. Full pep brush. I'm going overboard with the name, because the name has to be quite unique. Open Transform Fallout is a name that I can see that somebody else uses this somewhere, and since the editor prefs, I'm not going to tell you this if there's any problem. Yeah, then going to be it's easy to make a mistake here. So we got going to make longer names, just to make sure that nobody is using the same variable name. Yeah, with these names, just add brush forger in, near 0% chance that somebody is going to save the same key into the editor prep. And one last thing I want to do is to add spacing between the filter target list and thankfully it's super easy because we have just a container and can change its properties. Let's run of the things where I say clean code can sometimes be really nice. Yeah. Okay, I want to actually do maybe 25 to really have some spacing in between. Yeah, I think that is nice, but then I also want to have the same spacing over here between those two. Oh, that's the mapping though. So for the mapping for I actually just want 10 over here. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't want to have too much spacing here. So the tool options need some padding. Brush target list, then tool options. And let's make that 20. I don't know. I have just a weird taste, I guess. For that I want to see this kind of thing as the target list. Yeah. I think the target list. What? I think it could go one above. Wouldn't matter. Wouldn't matter. I mean, the tool list also could go underneath here. I wouldn't like if you open this up there if the tool list changes. But I would want the tools to be very much at the and as much on the top as possible. The world mapping is the first thing that you should see, because that's the thing that you would change the least. Yeah. So you set this one time, set this to plain, and then you can work in 2D. Yeah. And then you're not ever going to change anything. Yeah. Or ever. Yeah. For some people you would do, if you would to work in 2D, set this to plain, and every other option that is in here, like terrain, mesh or something, in 2D, if you don't have meshes, that wouldn't matter. And you're pretty much done. Yeah, you would never change this. Even in the mapping options, put this X to XY, and you are going to have to work on this view. and you're not ever going to make any other change. Yeah, and the direction change here, these are more tool options, like they're not even real options in my opinion. They're just, in my opinion, these options are, yeah, they're showcases. They're not real options. As you can just rotate the plane. They're not troll options, they're real options, but they're not super impressive options. Yeah. Okay. But it's they're also nice to just see if there's any problem with rotation or something in different rotation states. Yeah. So they proved a lot of problem. They showed a lot of problems and cases where needed some improvement. So they are not bad. Shouldn't complain too much. Okay, I want to have some space between the brush forger and the mapping. And let's just say I want to have some space underneath the logo. Yeah. Not much, but just going to look how it looks. Yeah. Isn't looking better. Arguably, I don't see it as that important. Yeah, I think that's alright. By feeling of my gut. Okay, so add generic. That's it for today. Because time is up. Meaning we've done quite something with cleaning up more, adding more quality of life changes, and yeah, actually it will also improve my own work here, because having to go in here, and you do this subconsciously. After some time you just accept that every time you have to go in here and open that thing up, close it again when you're working with that, and say, hey, I'm going to do this later. Yeah, now's the time. Maybe you should have done this sooner, because it's not that hard, and it just adds a little bit of clarity here. On the flip side, this is a quality of life change that you know that you need this thing by reusing the thing. Yeah, and this is also something that will happen now. I will just use this tool set on my own project. Probably this is still going to take some time until I use it on my own project, but when I use it, I will make some change. Some change, definitely. There will be something where I am like, okay, that is something that I didn't think of, but that only comes when you use your own stuff, and that's also important to not just produce something that works in theory, but to use it and improve on it in practice. So, added for today. Add a generic foldout for world mapping, tool options, and brush. It's done. It's world mapping options, tool options, and brush. And default this in, and everything is a little bit easier to understand. It's nicer, clearer. You go in here and let's go in like here, for example. It's not hard to understand. Now, I think it would be a little bit hard to understand if you have a brush forger and there's no tool that you can try out. So that's the thing. But yeah. And then memorize the foldouts. That's what I've done today. Yeah, that's everything. So I've been streaming for 2.5 hours. Yeah, just for foldouts. and mainly it was because I couldn't figure out how to save it up in some kind of static pool. In the specific case of the prefab brush inspector, yeah, this took longer than it should have because I had to do this cast of a target, yeah, and I think, yeah, and I think feels like I didn't do a lot in 2.5 hours. Nonetheless, next time I'm going to work on the attributes. Unfortunately, I talked about them and now I don't do improvement on them because I know that if I start now, it can really go to 4 or 5 a.m. until I'm finished with the task. If something goes wrong, like in the with the foldouts, where something that sounds really easy on paper, where you open or close the foldouts, and suddenly takes 10 times the time that it should, because you run into an issue that anybody that you talk with on the street about will not understand, care, or even programmers will not care about the issue that you've just been solving, because it's yeah, a weird thing. Yeah, but next time we're going to work on the attributes of each brush so you can see the actual name that we defined in the brush in the list here, and define which brushes are shown, which are not shown. Okay. So thank you for tuning in or watching the VOD. I'll be streaming it again tomorrow. Until next time. Goodbye.